The Belgian Malinois moved like death incarnate. 85 pounds of coiled muscle and barely contained fury, black coat bristling with aggression, scar tissue cutting across its muzzle like lightning, frozen in flesh. The dog's eyes held no recognition, no mercy, only the raw, primal hunger of a predator that hadn't eaten in 48 hours. Fallon Hartwell stood her ground. 33 years old, 5'3", dark auburn hair, pulled tight in a regulation bun, eyes the color of storm clouds over the Pacific. She didn't run, didn't scream, didn't give the men watching from outside the kennel the satisfaction of seeing fear. The dog's shadow, according to the faded nameplate on the chain-link fence, launched forward. 3 powerful strides closed the distance between them. Jaws opened wide, revealing teeth designed by evolution to rip and tear. The scent of starvation and rage filled the enclosed space, mixing with concrete dust and the metallic tang of old blood. Outside the fence, 8 Navy SEALs watched with cold anticipation. Senior Chief Grayson Mercer stood at the center, arms crossed over a chest thick with muscle gone slightly soft around the edges. 6'2", 240 pounds, buzz-cut hair showing threads of gray at the temples. His face looked like it had been carved from granite, then used for target practice. At 47, he carried himself with a kind of authority that came from spending 2 decades making younger men fear him. To his right, Specialist Tyler Brooks held up his phone recording. 28 years old, still trying to prove he belonged among these warriors. His voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Die now, bitch!" Laughter followed, harsh, masculine, the sound of men who believed they were about to witness someone break. But Fallon Hartwell didn't break. Instead, she did something that would have seemed insane to anyone watching from outside that kennel. As shadow closed the final feet between them, she turned her body at a 45-degree angle, made herself smaller, lowered her center of gravity into a crouch that took weight off her heels and distributed it across the balls of her feet. And she made a sound, not a scream, not a shout. Something that came from deep in her throat below the register of normal human speech. A specific vocalization that existed in the ancient language of pack animals, the sound a mother dog makes when calming her pups. A frequency between 150 and 200 hertz that bypassed conscious thought and spoke directly to canine instinct. Her father had taught her the technique through training videos he'd recorded before deploying to the Gulf, before she was born, before he never came home. Shadow stopped 6 feet away. The attack froze mid-stride. The dog's head tilted confusion, replacing fury. The growl cut off abruptly like someone had flipped a switch in the animal's brain. Fallon continued the vocalization, soft, rhythmic, non-threatening. She slowly sat down on the concrete floor, keeping her body angled away, eyes averted. Submissive posture, no challenge, no threat. She opened her hands, palms up, and rested them on her knees. Then she waited. Outside the kennel, the silence became absolute. Every SEAL watching had gone completely still. Even Tyler's phone stopped shaking in his hand. Shadow took a tentative step forward, then another. The dog's nose worked overtime, processing scents, reading information invisible to human senses. Adrenaline, sweat. But underneath those fear markers, something else. Something that smelled like pack, like safety, like home. Fallon whispered, barely audible, even in the quiet space. "Easy, warrior. I know they hurt you. I know you're hungry. I know they made you into something you never wanted to be." Her voice carried no fear, only calm certainty. "But I'm not your enemy. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." The dog moved closer, cautiously, the aggression giving way to curiosity. Shadow sniffed her hands, her neck, her face, reading her story through scent and pheromones. Learning who she was through methods older than language. Fallon slowly, so slowly it seemed like time itself had downshifted, raised her right hand. She moved it toward the dog's head, telegraphing the motion, giving Shadow every opportunity to pull away or snap. Her fingers found the spot just behind the dog's left ear, a pressure point she'd learned from her father's training videos, a cluster of nerves that when massaged correctly released endorphins and created a calming sensation that bypassed fear responses. She applied gentle circular pressure. Shadow's eyes half closed. A sound emerged from the dog's throat. Not a growl this time, but something else. Almost like a sigh. The release of tension held too long. Fallon's other hand found the matching spot behind the right ear. She massaged both pressure points simultaneously, using her thumbs to work the tension out of muscles that had been wound tight for too long. "That's it," she whispered. "Let it go. You're safe now. I've got you." Shadow made a sound that was almost a whimper, the kind of noise that suggested pain, releasing stress, draining away. And then, in a movement that seemed to defy everything the observers thought they knew about this animal, the dog lay down, not in submission, in trust. Shadow rested its massive head on Fallon's lap. She stroked the scarred muzzle, gently feeling the old wounds, the places where this magnificent animal had been hurt in service to humans who'd never properly thanked it. "Good boy," she murmured. "Such a good boy. You've been so brave, so strong. But you don't have to fight anymore. Not with me. Never with me." She sat there for a full minute, just breathing with the dog, feeling the rise and fall of its ribs, establishing connection, building trust, creating the foundation of a partnership. Finally, she spoke clearly, confidently, using the commands in German that SEAL combat dogs were trained to understand. "Shadow sits." The dog immediately sat up, attentive, eyes locked on Fallon's face. "Platz." Shadow dropped into a prone position, still watching her with absolute focus. "Bei Fuß." The dog moved to her left side, matching her pace perfectly as she stood and walked toward the kennel door. Shoulder aligned with her left leg, moving in synchronized steps that spoke of complete trust and understanding. Fallon knocked twice on the chain-link fence. The door opened. She walked out with Shadow at perfect heel. The dog's shoulder stayed aligned with her leg, moving in steps so synchronized they could have been a single organism. Not through force, not through fear, through partnership. The corridor remained silent. 8 Navy SEALs stared at her, with expressions ranging from shock to disbelief to something that looked almost like fear. Tyler Brooks's phone had stopped recording. His jaw hung open like someone had disconnected the muscles controlling it. Commander Nolan Garrett slowly straightened from where he'd been leaning against the opposite wall. 61 years old, silver hair, cut military short of face, mapped with scars earned over 3 decades of service. He'd been at Desert Storm in '91, had seen things that would break lesser men, but even he looked stunned. "I'll be damned," he said softly. Grayson Mercer stood frozen. His face had drained of color. Fallon watched emotions flicker across his features. Surprise, yes, but underneath that, something darker. Something that looked almost like fear mixed with recognition. She stopped directly in front of him. Shadow sat without being commanded, a solid presence at her side. When Fallon spoke, her voice carried through the corridor with perfect clarity. "Your training methods are outdated, Senior Chief. Starvation and isolation don't create discipline. They create trauma. Shadow isn't aggressive. He's terrified. He's been hurt, punished, treated like a weapon instead of a partner." She paused, letting the words sink in. "He deserves better." Another pause. Fallon looked at each face in turn, memorizing reactions, filing away information. "I'm Marcus Hartwell's daughter. My father was Master Chief K9 Handler, SEAL Team 3. He taught me that dogs are teammates, not tools. He taught me to earn their trust instead of demanding their submission. He taught me that real strength isn't about domination." She met Mercer's eyes directly. "It's about partnership." The silence that followed felt heavy enough to collapse the building. Somewhere in the distance, another dog barked. The sound echoed off concrete and faded into nothing. Commander Garrett cleared his throat. "I think we've seen enough." He looked at Mercer. "Senior Chief assigned her to primary handler rotation. She's earned it." Mercer's jaw clenched. A muscle twitched in his cheek, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." The SEALs began filing out conversations, starting in low murmurs. Tyler Brooks paused as he passed Fallon. "That was..." He struggled for words. "I've never seen anyone handle Shadow like that." "How did you..." "My father taught me," Fallon said simply. "I'm sorry. About earlier. The phone, the comment. That was out of line." She studied him. Young, maybe 28, still trying to prove himself. The kind of operator who acted tough because he wasn't entirely sure he was tough enough. "Shadow forgave you the moment I walked out of that kennel," she said. "I can too." Something like respect flickered in his eyes. He nodded and walked away. Eventually, only 3 people remained in the corridor. Fallon Commander Garrett and Grayson Mercer. Mercer stared at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. "You're good, better than I expected." He paused. "But being good with dogs isn't enough. Combat operations require more than party tricks." "I'm aware, sir. Your father was good too, one of the best." Mercer's eyes went flat. "He's dead. Has been for 33 years. Maybe you should think about whether following in his footsteps is really the smart play." The threat wasn't subtle. Fallon held his gaze, refused to look away first. "I've thought about nothing else for 33 years, Senior Chief, and I'm exactly where I need to be." Something shifted in Mercer's expression. Understanding, maybe, or recognition of an enemy he'd underestimated. He turned and walked away without another word. His footsteps echoed until the corridor door slammed shut. Garrett moved closer. His face showed a mixture of pride and concern. "Your father and I served together in the Gulf," he said quietly. "Desert Storm 1991. Week before he died, his dog sergeant detected an Iraqi patrol that would have ambushed our convoy, saved 12 lives that day. I owed him everything." "Thank you for telling me that, sir." "What you did just now," Garrett gestured toward the kennel, "that was exactly how he would have handled it. Same technique, same patience, same result. I learned from the best. But now Mercer knows you're a threat. He'll be watching your every move, every interaction." Garrett trailed off, then continued. "If he suspects what you're really doing here." Fallon looked down at Shadow, who sat calmly at her side. The terror and aggression from earlier had completely vanished. "Let him watch," she said. "I'm not backing down. Not now. Not ever." Garrett nodded slowly. Then he did something that surprised her. He extended his hand. "Welcome to Naval Special Warfare K9 Operations, Chief Petty Officer Hartwell." She shook his hand. His grip was firm, callous, the handshake of someone who'd spent a lifetime doing things that required hard work and harder choices. "Report to my office at 0800 tomorrow," Garrett continued. "We need to talk about your father, about what really happened in the Gulf, and about why Grayson Mercer just looked at you like he'd seen a ghost." He released her hand and walked toward the exit, paused at the door. "Get some rest, Hartwell. You're going to need it." Then he was gone. Fallon stood alone in the corridor with Shadow. The dog pressed against her legs, solid, warm, loyal, in a way that transcended words. She reached down and stroked his scarred head. "Come on, boy. Let's get you fed properly this time." The barracks room was small, barely large enough for a bed, desk, and locker, but it was hers. Fallon set her Alice pack on the desk, the same model her father had carried 30 years earlier. 60 pounds of gear clothing, and one item that mattered more than all the rest combined: her father's journal. Shadow settled in the corner, finally relaxed, the trauma of his morning experience fading under Fallon's gentle presence. She filled a bowl with water, another with food from her pack. The dog ate slowly at first, then with more confidence. Months of improper feeding had taught him that meals might be taken away, but Fallon sat with him, one hand resting on his shoulder, until he understood that this food was his. No conditions, no punishment. When he finished, she opened the journal. The leather cover was worn smooth from handling. Her mother had found it in Marcus Hartwell's personal effects, sealed in plastic, marked "Property of Master Chief Marcus Hartwell. SEAL Team 3. Had given it to Fallon before she died 6 years ago. Cancer. 18 months of watching her mother waste away while she felt helpless. "He wanted you to have this," her mother had whispered in the hospital voice, barely audible over the machines keeping her alive. "Said if anything happened to him, these pages would tell you everything you needed to know." Fallon had been working on decoding it ever since. Her father had used a cipher, part military shorthand, part personal code, designed so that only someone with his training, his knowledge, could read it. Someone like his daughter. She opened to a marked page. An entry from October 10th, 1991. 7 days before her father died. The handwriting was cramped, efficient, packing maximum information into minimum space. October 10th, 1991, Basra vicinity. Confirmed 5 Vipers in the nest. GM is 1, possibly VK at top. Smuggling operation confirmed. Not drugs. Weapons-grade material. Stinger missiles, RPGs, possibly worse. Destination unknown but payment traced to offshore accounts. They know I know. Going to brief CB tomorrow if I survive tonight's patrol. If something happens, trust the dogs. They know who the wolves are. Tell Fallon I love her. GM, Grayson Mercer, VK. She'd been working on that one, cross-referencing personnel records from her father's final deployment. The most likely candidate was Captain Victor Kane, currently stationed at Naval Special Warfare Command, decorated veteran, Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, Afghanistan, Iraq. The kind of officer with political connections all the way to the Pentagon. Untouchable, CB Cole Bennett, her father's best friend, his platoon leader during Panama in '89. The man who'd been at Marcus Hartwell's side through Grenada, through Desert Storm, through a dozen operations that would never appear in official records. Fallon pulled out her laptop, began searching personnel databases, found what she was looking for. Master Chief Cole Bennett, 71 years old. Retired from active duty 5 years ago. Currently worked as a civilian contractor at Naval Special Warfare Center, training K9 units. Passing on knowledge earned through blood and time. Still here, on base, less than half a mile away. She glanced at the clock. 22:30 hours. Late, but not too late. Fallon stood. Shadow looked up, immediately ready to follow. Stay, boy. Guard. The dog settled back down. Not happy about it, but obedient. She locked the door behind her and headed into the California night. The K9 training facility sat at the eastern edge of the compound, downwind from everything else. Smart placement. Dogs made noise, and war dogs made more noise than most. She could hear them now as she approached. Barking, howling, the sound of animals bred and trained for violence, waiting for their next mission. The facility looked exactly like every other military building she'd ever seen. Cinder block construction, flat roof, industrial lighting, functional to the point of being hostile. The only concession to aesthetics was a faded mural near the entrance. A German shepherd in tactical gear painted in desert camouflage colors. The door wasn't locked. Fallon pushed it open and stepped inside. The smell hit her first. Not unpleasant, just intense. Dog, concrete, disinfectant, and underneath it all the distinct scent of controlled aggression. 12 kennels lined the main corridor, 6 on each side. Most were occupied. She could see the dogs now. Belgian Malinois primarily, with a few German shepherds mixed in. All of them alert. All of them watching her with the kind of focus that most humans couldn't maintain for more than a few seconds. Well, well, working late, aren't we? The voice came from her left. Not hostile, but cautious. Fallon turned and found herself looking at a man who seemed designed to intimidate through sheer presence rather than overt aggression. 6'1", maybe 220 pounds. Silver hair cut military short. A face that looked like it had been weathered by decades of sun and wind and hard decisions. He walked with a barely perceptible limp right leg, probably shrapnel, but his shoulders stayed square, and his eyes stayed sharp. Master Chief Cole Bennett. Fallon recognized him instantly from photographs. Her father's best friend. The man who'd held her at Marcus Hartwell's funeral, while she cried though she'd been too young to remember. The man who'd promised her father he'd look after his family if anything happened. Bennett looked at her, and she watched his expression shift through several emotions in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, shock, and finally something that looked almost like pain. Jesus Christ, he said softly. Marcus's little girl. The corridor fell silent. Even the dogs seemed to sense the change in atmosphere. Fallon found her voice. Master Chief Bennett, it's good to see you again. He moved closer, the limp more pronounced now, like the shock had made him forget to compensate. He stopped a few feet away, studying her face with an intensity that made her want to look away. She didn't. You have his eyes, Bennett said. Same storm gray color. Same expression, like you're always analyzing, always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. He paused. Does your mother know you're here? My mother passed away 6 years ago. Cancer. Something in his face broke just a little. I didn't know. I'm sorry. It was quick. She didn't suffer much. The lie came easily. Her mother had suffered tremendously, wasting away over 18 months while Fallon watched helplessly. But some truths were too heavy to share with strangers, even strangers who'd once been family. Bennett's hand went to his face. rubbed his eyes like he was trying to clear away images he didn't want to see. Why are you here, Fallon? And don't tell me it's just to carry on your father's work. I know that look. I've seen it before. She made a decision, reached into her jacket and pulled out the journal. Worn leather cover pages yellowed with age. Dad kept a journal. Mom found it in his personal effects, gave it to me before she died. Most of it's encrypted, but I've been working on decoding it for 6 years. She opened to a marked page and handed it to him. Read the entry from October 10th, 1991, 7 days before he died. Bennett took the journal with the care usually reserved for religious texts. His eyes moved across the page. Fallon watched his expression shift from curiosity to shock to something that looked like barely controlled rage. Jesus Christ, he whispered. The entry was short, devastating. Bennett looked up from the journal. His face had gone pale. GM, Grayson Mercer. That's my conclusion. And VK, you think that's Captain Victor Kane, Commander of Special Operations Integration. Been at Naval Special Warfare Command for 15 years. Decorated veteran. Grenada Panama Desert Storm. Political connections all the way to, I don't care who he knows, Bennett interrupted. I care that your father discovered something worth killing him over. And I care that the men responsible have been walking free for 33 years. He handed back the journal. This is dangerous, Fallon. If you're right, if Marcus was murdered by fellow SEALs, then those same men are still here, still operating, still protected by the system. They'll kill you too if they realize what you're doing. I know. Do you? Bennett's voice sharpened. Because your father was the best handler I ever knew, the best tactical mind, the best friend a man could ask for, and they killed him anyway. What makes you think you'll fare better? Fallon met his eyes. Because I'm not alone. My father tried to do this by himself, but I have his journals. I have his evidence, and I have you. Bennett went very still. What makes you think I'll help? Because you've been carrying guilt for 33 years. Because you knew something was wrong and didn't push hard enough. Because you made a promise to my father. She stepped closer. And because you're the one he trusted. CB, he wrote about you in his final entry. Said he was going to brief you the next day. He gave you evidence, didn't he? Copies of something. Financial records, maybe. Communication logs, something he wanted preserved in case they got to him first. Bennett's expression confirmed it before his words did. I've had questions about your father's death since the day it happened, he said quietly. The official investigation was sealed. Anyone I tried to talk to about it either got transferred or told me to let it go. I pushed as hard as I could, but I was just one old man with suspicions and no proof. He paused. I wasn't brave enough to push harder. That's something I'll have to live with. Fallon pulled out another page from the journal, a different entry. October 14th, 1991. 3 days before he died. Bennett took it, read. His hands started shaking. Final entry before mission. Tomorrow we patrol Route 7 standard sweep. But I have bad feeling. GM volunteered to ride in my vehicle, never done that before. VK personally selected the route, also unusual. I've informed CB of my suspicions, given him copy of evidence. If I don't return, he knows what to do. To Fallon, if you're reading this, I'm gone. You're not born yet. Your mother is pregnant. You'll never know me except through these words. But you're strong, stronger than you know. Finish what I started. Expose the vipers. Protect the pack. Trust the dogs. They know who the wolves are. I love you, baby girl, always and forever. Dad. Bennett lowered the page. Fallon saw tears on his weathered face. He knew, Bennett whispered. He knew they were going to kill him, and he went anyway because that's who he was. A man who did the right thing even when it cost him everything. Bennett looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly something in his expression shifted. The fear remained, but underneath it she saw something else. Recognition. Respect. The look of someone seeing a ghost and realizing it had come back to finish unfinished business. You're really going through with this. Yes. Even knowing it might get you killed. Especially knowing that. Bennett studied her face. Seeing her father's determination, his refusal to back down, his absolute commitment to doing what was right regardless of personal cost. Finally, Bennett extended his hand. Marcus saved my life more times than I can count. Somalia in '93. Nearly took shrapnel that was meant for me. I owe him everything. I should have pushed harder when he died. Should have demanded answers. Should have protected his legacy. Fallon took his hand. His grip was firm, callous, the handshake of someone who'd spent a lifetime doing things that required hard work and harder choices. Help me now, she said. Help me finish what he started. What do you need? Time, access, information about who was on his final deployment, who had opportunity, who benefited from his death. I can get you that. Bennett paused. But Fallon, if Grayson Mercer is involved, he's dangerous. He's smart, well-connected, and he's got a reputation for being absolutely ruthless. You can't let him know you suspect him. I wasn't planning to. And there's something else you should know. Bennett glanced back toward the kennels. Mercer requested transfer out of SEAL Team 3 within 2 weeks of your father's death, cited personal reasons. But 6 months later, he was reassigned back with a promotion and a new position running the K9 program. Fallon's mind raced through implications. That's unusual. It's unheard of. Standard protocol is minimum 2 years before reassignment to the same unit, unless someone with a serious pull intervened. Someone like Captain Kane. Exactly. They stood in silence, the weight of what they'd set in motion, settling onto both their shoulders. This wasn't just about personal revenge anymore. If her father had discovered a smuggling operation run by Navy SEALs, if he'd been murdered to keep that secret, then the corruption went deeper than she'd imagined. Bennett spoke again. There's one more thing. If you're going to be here, if you're going to investigate while maintaining your cover as just another handler, you need to be good. Better than good. You need to be exceptional. I can handle the dogs. I know you can. I've read your file. Top marks at Lackland. Perfect scores on every certification. But these aren't Air Force working dogs or police K9s. These are SEAL combat dogs, the meanest, most dangerous animals the military produces. And they've all been trained by Mercer using methods your father would have hated. Bennett started walking back toward the entrance. Fallon followed. Tomorrow afternoon, he continued, they're going to test you again. It's tradition. New handler gets thrown into the deep end. See if they sink or swim. Usually it's harmless. But if Mercer suspects anything, if he wants to send a message, he trailed off. What kind of test? They'll probably stick you in with one of the difficult dogs. See how you handle it. Fallon thought about Shadow, those cold eyes that scar the 3 handlers sent to medical. I can handle it. Bennett looked at her. For just a moment, she saw her father looking back. The same expression Marcus Hartwell would get before a mission. Determination mixed with resignation. The face of someone who knew the odds and chose to fight anyway. Yeah, he said quietly. I think you can. The night air was cool against her skin as Fallon walked back to the barracks. Stars overhead scattered across the California sky like broken glass. Shadow would be waiting. Loyal patient, ready to protect her, even though they'd only known each other for hours. That was the nature of dogs. Absolute commitment to their handlers regardless of personal cost. Fallon thought about her father, about the journal entry, about his final words to her, written 3 days before men he trusted murdered him with a blade. Words written to a daughter not yet born. Finish what I started. She would, no matter what it cost, no matter who stood in her way, no matter how many powerful men tried to bury the truth. Her father had died believing in honor and duty and doing the right thing. She would honor that belief by exposing the men who'd killed him for it. Fallon reached her barracks, unlocked the door. Shadow looked up immediately, tail wagging once. Mission complete. Handler returned safe. She knelt beside him, stroked his scarred head. Tomorrow, boy. Tomorrow we start hunting wolves. The dog's tail thumped against the floor, a sound of agreement, of loyalty, of trust. Outside, the Pacific Ocean crashed against the shore in endless rhythm. Inside, Fallon Hartwell prepared for war. Not the kind fought with guns and grenades, but the kind fought with evidence and exposure and the relentless pursuit of justice. The kind that would either bring down a conspiracy or get her killed trying. She was ready for either outcome. The morning sun hadn't yet burned through the coastal fog when Fallon arrived at Commander Garrett's office. 800 hours exactly on time. Shadow walked at perfect heel beside her, the dog's transformation from yesterday's aggressive predator to disciplined partner drawing stares from every operator they passed. Garrett's office occupied a corner of the second floor in the main administration building. Small functional walls covered with photos from deployments and commendations from wars. The smell of coffee mixed with gun oil and old paper. The commander sat behind his desk reading something on his computer screen. He looked up as Fallon knocked on the open door frame. "Hartwell, come in. Close the door." She did. Shadow settled at her feet without being commanded. Garrett studied her for a long moment. His expression was difficult to read. Not hostile, but not entirely friendly either. The look of someone making calculations about trust and risk and how much truth to share. Finally, he spoke. "Your performance yesterday was exceptional. Too exceptional." He leaned forward. "You handled a dangerous animal with techniques that looked exactly like the ones your father used." Which raises some questions. Fallon said nothing. Waited. "I'm going to say something, and I need you to listen carefully." Garrett's voice dropped. "Marcus Hartwell was my friend. We served together during Desert Storm. Week before he died, his dog sergeant detected an Iraqi patrol that would have ambushed our convoy. Saved 12 lives that day. When he died, I pushed for a full investigation. I was told to let it go. Operational security, need to know. All the bureaucratic nonsense that translates to shut up and follow orders." He paused. "I never bought the official story. IED explosion, enemy ambush. Too convenient, too clean. But I'm just a commander. Captain Kane is Naval Special Warfare Command. He's got stars on his shoulder and senators on speed dial. I couldn't push without evidence." Garrett's eyes locked on hers. "You're here for a reason, and I don't think it's just to carry on your father's work. I think you're investigating his death." The silence stretched between them like tripwire. Fallon made a decision. "Yes, sir, I am." Garrett nodded slowly, like he'd expected the answer. "What have you found?" "Evidence that my father discovered a smuggling operation. 5 corrupt SEALs, possibly including Senior Chief Mercer and Captain Kane. Weapons-grade materials sold to hostile entities. $65 million over 33 years. Christ. Garrett ran a hand through his silver hair. "Can you prove it?" "Not yet, but I will. And when you do, I'm bringing them all down. Every single one." The commander studied her for another long moment. Then he turned to a filing cabinet behind his desk, pulled out a folder marked with security classifications, and set it in front of her. "This is the after-action report from your father's final mission. Route 7 Patrol, October 17th, 1991. I've read it probably 50 times in the last 33 years. Something about it never sat right." Fallon opened the folder. Inside were typed reports, hand-drawn maps, casualty assessments, and photos. She forced herself to look at them. The burned Humvee, the scattered debris, the body bags. "Look at the patrol roster," Garrett said. "Who was assigned to your father's vehicle?" Fallon scanned the list. Her blood went cold. Grayson Mercer had requested assignment to Marcus's vehicle 12 hours before the mission. That was noted in the report. Usually handlers rode with their own dogs, but Mercer said his K9 was injured, asked to ride with Marcus instead. "And the route," Garrett continued, "selected personally by Captain Kane. Also unusual, route selection is typically left to squad leaders on the ground, but Kane overrode standard protocol, insisted on Route 7 specifically." Fallon's hands trembled as she held the papers. "They set him up. That's what I've suspected for 33 years, but suspicion isn't evidence. And without evidence, Kane is untouchable." Garrett closed the folder. "We've got a mission. Mexico border 3 days from now. Cartel interdiction operation. Intel suggests major smuggling activity. Cocaine weapons, high-value targets." He paused. "Mercer volunteered to lead Bravo team. That's suspicious. I want you on Alpha team as primary K9 handler. We observe his actions. Document everything. If he makes a move, if he tries anything, we'll be ready." Fallon felt her pulse quicken. "You're risking your career, sir. Marcus Hartwell saved my life during Desert Storm. I owe him a debt I can never repay, but maybe I can give his daughter a chance to get justice." A knock on the door interrupted them. Cole Bennett entered without waiting for permission. He looked at Garrett, then at Fallon, then at the folder on the desk. "Nolan," Bennett said, "we need to talk." Garrett gestured to a chair. Bennett sat his old injuries, making the movement careful. Fallon showed me Marcus's journals last night, Bennett said. All of them. She's been decoding them for 6 years. What did they say? Everything. Names, dates, transactions. Marcus documented a 33-year smuggling operation, started small with captured weapons after Desert Storm escalated to Stinger missiles RPGs, possibly radiological materials. 65 million in offshore accounts. 5 SEALs running the whole thing with Captain Kane at the top. Garrett's expression went dark. Who are the other 3 besides Mercer and Kane? Bennett pulled out a notebook. Fallon recognized her own handwriting. Based on Marcus's cipher, we think Blake Morrison, Lieutenant Commander, currently at SEAL Team 5. Derek Walsh, Chief Warrant Officer, Special Operations. And the 5th one we're still working on. Initials of. Owen Fisher, Garrett said immediately. Petty Officer, First Class. Was on Marcus's final deployment, transferred to Training Command 6 months after Marcus died. The pieces were falling into place. A conspiracy that had operated for 33 years. 7 people murdered to protect it. Terrorists funded with American military materials. And at the center of it all, decorated veterans who decided that their service entitled them to betray everything they'd sworn to protect. Fallon spoke. We need more than journals and suspicions. We need documented evidence. Financial records, communication logs, physical proof of smuggling. The Mexico operation, Bennett said, if Mercer is running product through cartel channels, this mission gives us a chance to catch him in the act. Garrett nodded. I'll brief NCIS. Agent Sloan Brennan is solid. Worked anti-corruption cases for 20 years. She'll know how to handle this without tipping our hand. He looked at Fallon. Mission brief is tomorrow at 0600. Get some rest. And Hartwell. Be careful. Mercer is dangerous. If he even suspects what you're doing here, he won't hesitate. I understand, sir. Do you? Because your father underestimated them, and they put a blade in his chest. The words hit like a physical blow, but Fallon kept her face neutral. I won't make that mistake. She left the office with Shadow. Bennett followed her into the hallway. You did good in there, he said quietly. Garrett's a good man, one of the few who can't be bought. But Fallon, you need to understand something. He stopped walking, turned to face her. This operation in Mexico, it's going to be dangerous. Not just the usual mission risk. If Mercer suspects we're on to him, he'll try to eliminate the threat. That means you. He's already killed 7 people. An 8th won't cost him any sleep. Then I'll have to make sure he doesn't get the chance. Bennett's expression showed both pride and fear. Your father said the same thing right before they murdered him. The afternoon brought a discovery that made Fallon's blood run cold. She'd returned to the kennels to work with Shadow Building on yesterday's breakthrough. The dog was responding beautifully to positive reinforcement training. Each session revealed more of the intelligent, loyal animal underneath the trauma and aggression. But when she arrived at Shadow's kennel, she found Tyler Brooks standing outside. His face was pale. His hands shook. Blood stained his uniform. What happened? Fallon demanded. Luna. His voice broke. Someone got to her, poisoned her food. She started seizing 20 minutes ago. Fallon pushed past him into the medical bay, found the base veterinarian Doc Keller kneeling beside a Belgian Malinois. His hands were covered in blood. His expression was devastated. She's gone, Doc said quietly. Died 3 minutes ago. Tried everything, but whatever they used worked too fast. Fallon's knees nearly buckled. Luna, one of the program's best dogs. Smart, loyal, with 3 successful deployments under her collar, and Mercer's former partner, before he'd switched to a younger dog 2 years ago. Who did this? Don't know for certain, but it was deliberate. Someone put something in her food bowl. Had to happen last night while we were all off base. Bennett appeared in the doorway, took one look at the scene and understood immediately. Kane, he said, sending a message, showing he can get to us anytime he wants. Rage flooded through Fallon, but she forced it down, locked it away, channeled it into cold determination. Check every other dog, she ordered. Every food bowl, every water dish. I want guards posted 24/7. Nobody gets near these animals without clearance from me or Doc Keller personally. Already done, Doc confirmed. 2 loyal operators standing watch. But Fallon, this is just the beginning. Kane is escalating. Good. Fallon's voice was flat hard. Let him escalate. It won't matter. She knelt beside Luna's body, placed a hand on still warm fur. I'm sorry, girl. You deserved better. Shadow approached slowly, sniffed his fallen packmate. A low whine emerged from his throat, grief in its purest form, but Doc Keller was already examining Luna's collar more closely. He removed it carefully, turned it over in his hands. Wait, there's something here. He pointed to a small rectangular device hidden in the lining of the collar, no bigger than a USB drive. Hidden microchip, audio recorder. Doc's hands moved quickly, extracting the device. This is military-grade surveillance tech. Luna was recording something. Bennett took the chip, plugged it into his phone with an adapter. Listened through earbuds for 30 seconds. His face went white. Jesus Christ. What is it? Fallon asked. Bennett pulled out one earbud, played the audio on speaker. Voices muffled but clear enough. A man's voice. The handler's getting too close. Asking questions. Another voice. Then we eliminate him. Same as Hartwell. Make it look like training accident. First voice. Kane approved. Second voice. Kane ordered it. The recording ended. Fallon looked at Bennett. When was this recorded? Doc checked the timestamp on the device. 2 years ago, March 24th, 2022. Luna witnessed a murder plot, Bennett said, or at least a conspiracy to commit one. That's why she was poisoned. They finally realized she had evidence. Fallon's mind raced. Who was the handler they were talking about? Bennett pulled up records on his phone. March 24, 2022. Let me check casualty reports. He scrolled, stopped. Chief Petty Officer Nathan Cross, K9 handler, died in a training accident 3 days after this conversation was recorded. Official cause fell from rappelling tower equipment failure. They killed him, Fallon whispered. And Shadow was there, Doc said quietly. Luna and Shadow were kenneled together back then. If Luna recorded this, Shadow witnessed it. That's why he's traumatized. He saw them murder his handler. Fallon looked at Shadow with new understanding. The dog's aggression wasn't just from abuse. It was from trauma, from watching his handler die, from knowing in whatever way dogs know things that the men around him were wolves. She pulled Shadow close, held him. I'm so sorry, boy. I'm so sorry you had to see that. The dog pressed against her, seeking comfort from the only human who'd shown him kindness in 2 years. Bennett pocketed the audio device. This is evidence, admissible in court. We can use this. We give it to Brennan, Garrett said, appearing in the doorway. He'd been monitoring from the observation room. And we move up the timeline. The Mexico operation happens tomorrow night, not in 3 days. If they're escalating this fast, we don't have time to wait. The Mexico border operation launched at 0230 hours. Fallon moved through the desert with Shadow at her side. The dog's breathing synchronized with her own. 48 degrees Fahrenheit now that the sun had set, cold enough that her breath misted in the air, visible even through her PVS 31 night vision goggles. The enhanced optics painted everything in shades of green and black, turning the landscape into something alien and hostile. 3 miles north of the border, desolate wasteland that stretched in every direction, the kind of place where smugglers operated and people disappeared without questions being asked. Shadow stopped suddenly. His ears rotated forward, nose twitching as he processed scents invisible to human perception. Contact. Fallon dropped to one knee behind a rock formation, one hand resting on the dog's shoulder. Through her night vision, she could see nothing yet, but Shadow knew. 8 years of training compressed into 85 pounds of muscle and instinct. The dog had never been wrong. Alpha 6, this is Alpha 2 over. She kept her voice to a whisper. The throat mic picked up the sub-vocalization. Shadow has scent trail approximately 2 hours old, multiple individuals heading northwest toward target building over. Commander Garrett's voice crackled through her earpiece. Copy Alpha 2. Hold position and observe. Do not advance until we have full team coordination over. Roger out. Fallon settled into her position, scanning the terrain ahead. The abandoned mining structure sat half a mile distant, a relic from California's gold rush days now repurposed for activities far less legal than prospecting. Intelligence suggested tonight's meeting involved major cartel operations. 500 kilograms of cocaine plus unknown high-value cargo. What the intelligence hadn't mentioned was why Grayson Mercer had volunteered to lead Bravo team for this operation, or why he'd specifically requested that Fallon be assigned to Alpha team instead of working under his direct command. Red flags, all of them. Shadow's muscles tensed a fraction before Fallon's conscious mind registered the sound. Vehicle engines, distant but approaching. Alpha 6 contact. 3 vehicles inbound from South Heavy class, approaching grid reference 729 or over. Visual confirmation over. Fallon raised her night vision device to maximum magnification. 3 Suburbans materialized from the darkness, moving in tactical formation. Not the beat-up trucks typical of cartel operations. These were new armored, moving with military precision. Confirmed. Black Suburbans, armored configuration, military pattern movement. So this doesn't match our intelligence profile, over. A pause on the radio. When Garrett spoke again, his voice carried tension. All teams' weapons hold. Something's wrong here, out. The vehicle stopped near the mining structure. Doors opened with synchronized precision. Personnel dismounted. 8 individuals, all moving with the kind of tactical efficiency that came from military training. Even at this distance, their silhouettes screamed operator, not cartel. Fast, Fallon whispered to Shadow. The dog growled softly. Not his aggressive sound, his warning sound. The one that meant danger of a different kind than expected. Good boy, she whispered, fingers working through the fur behind his ears. I see them too. She watched the operators move to the rear vehicles and begin unloading cargo. Metal cases approximately 2 feet long, 18 inches wide, heavy enough that it took 2 men to carry each one. Fallon zoomed her optics, trying to get better resolution. The cases had stenciled markings on their sides, faded, barely visible even with night vision enhancement. Then she saw it clearly. 3 triangles arranged in a trefoil pattern, the international symbol for radioactive materials. Her heart rate spiked. Alpha 6, the cargo isn't drugs. Repeat, I'm seeing radiation hazard symbols on the cases. This is not a standard cartel operation, over. Say again, Alpha 2, over. The cases have radiation warning markings, sir. Military transport containers. These aren't smugglers. These are operators moving weapons-grade materials, over. A new voice cut into the radio net. Senior Chief Grayson Mercer, commanding Bravo team from his Overwatch position, 300 yards east. Alpha 6, Bravo 1 confirms Alpha 2's assessment. I have visual on the containers. Those are radiological transport cases, military specification. How the hell did cartel smugglers get radioactive materials, over? Garrett's confusion was obvious in his voice. All teams maintain observation. Do not engage without my direct order, out. But before anyone could respond, the desert night exploded. Gunfire shattered the silence. Muzzle flashes strobed in the darkness as a third force appeared. Actual cartel sicarios, 15 or 20 of them, ambushed the group near the mining structure. The distinctive chatter of AK-47s mixed with the sharper reports of M4 carbines returning fire. Chaos erupted. Bodies moved in the darkness, seeking cover, returning fire, dying. All teams, Garrett's voice cut through the chaos. We have active engagement, multiple hostiles. Alpha and Bravo teams move to contain. Charlie team establish perimeter. Rules of engagement are weapons free if fired upon. Priority objective, secure those containers before they disappear, out. Fallon was already moving before the order finished. Shadow matched her stride perfectly, both of them, flowing across broken ground like shadows. Her training took over. The countless hours at Lackland, the endless repetitions, the muscle memory built through sweat and discipline, and her father's voice in her head. Stay low, move fast, trust your dog. She reached a position 40 yards from the firefight, dropped prone behind a low ridge. Shadow pressed against her side, solid and warm, and absolutely steady, despite the chaos erupting ahead. Through the strobing muzzle flashes, she tracked 3 operators struggling with containers, trying to evacuate toward their vehicles, while their teammates provided covering fire. Alpha 2 has eyes on package. 3 individuals attempting exfiltration with containers heading northeast, over. Intercept if possible, Garrett ordered, but do not engage alone. Wait for backup, out. Footsteps approached from her right. Fallon spun, weapon rising, finger taking slack on the trigger. Cole Bennett materialized from darkness. 71 years old, but moving with the fluid precision of someone who'd spent 40 years in combat. He carried his M4 like it was an extension of his body. "I'm with you," he said simply. They moved together toward the mining structure entrance. The three men with containers had already disappeared inside, an old shaft leading underground. Fallon gestured to Shadow. The dog's nose went to work, immediately tracking scent through gunpowder residue and dust. The shaft descended at a steep angle. Emergency lighting recently installed, not original to the mine, cast everything in harsh shadows. Metal grating rang under their boots. Somewhere ahead, voices echoed back, distorted by stone walls and distance. Bennett held up a fist. "Stop. Listen." The voices grew clearer. "Should have been clear. Someone talked. Doesn't matter now. Get the package to the secondary site. Kane will handle cleanup." Kane. Captain Victor Kane. The name from her father's journal. Fallon looked at Bennett, saw recognition flash in his eyes. Understanding. Confirmation that the conspiracy was real was happening right now. They moved forward, weapons up, Shadow leading, but silent as death itself. The shaft opened into a larger chamber. An old equipment room now repurposed as a staging area. Industrial shelving lined the walls. The three men were loading containers onto a hidden ATV. Fallon stepped into the chamber, M4 carbine, extended in a two-handed grip, weapon-mounted light, cutting through darkness. "Federal agents, don't move." It was a bluff. She wasn't federal anything, but the psychology worked on instinct. Most people froze when confronted with authority and weapons. Two of the three operators started to comply, hands rising slowly, professional enough to recognize when they were outgunned. The third man reached for his sidearm. Shadow was faster. The Belgian Malinois launched across 15 feet of space in less than 2 seconds. 85 pounds of trained fury hit the gunman's center mass. The impact drove him backward. Shadow's jaws clamped onto his weapon arm just below the elbow. Bone crunched audibly. The man screamed. His pistol clattered across the stone floor, skittering into Shadow's. "Shadow, hold," Fallon commanded. The dog maintained his grip but didn't tear. Perfect control, holding the threat immobile, without causing unnecessary damage beyond the initial takedown. Bennett moved forward with flex cuffs ready. "On your knees, hands behind your heads now." The two uninjured operators complied. They were professionals. Knew when they were beaten, knew that resistance would only make things worse. Fallon kept her weapon trained on them while Bennett secured their wrists with zip ties, cinching them tight enough to prevent escape, but not tight enough to cut off circulation. "Who do you work for?" Fallon demanded. Silence. Both men stared straight ahead, expressions blank. They'd been trained to resist interrogation, probably at the same schools where Navy SEALs learned similar techniques. "Those containers are radiological materials, weapons grade. You're transporting materials that could be used in terrorist attacks. That's federal prison for life, no parole, unless you cooperate." Still nothing. These weren't amateurs caught in over their heads. These were operators who knew exactly what they were doing and had accepted the consequences before they started. Fallon tried a different approach. "My father discovered this operation 33 years ago. Master Chief Marcus Hartwell. You know that name?" A flicker in one man's eyes. Recognition. Fear, maybe. "He threatened to expose you, so you killed him. Made it look like an IED, but he left evidence. Journals, documentation, names." She paused, letting it sink in. "I know about the 5 SEALs running this operation. I know about Captain Kane. I know about Senior Chief Mercer. And I know about you." The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush stone. Then a voice spoke from the shadows at the chamber's far end. "They work for me." Senior Chief Grayson Mercer stepped into the light, his M4 rifle pointed directly at Fallon's chest. Behind him, 2 more operators emerged from concealment. All 3 had clear lines of fire. Time seemed to slow. Fallon's mind processed 1,000 details in the space between heartbeats. Mercer's positioning tactically perfect. Clear shot, no cover for her. His weapon selector switch visible even from this distance, set to full auto. His expression cold calculation, no hesitation, no doubt. The expression of someone who'd made this decision before and wouldn't lose sleep over making it again. "Lower your weapon, Hartwell," Mercer said calmly, professionally. like he was conducting a training exercise instead of preparing to commit murder. Or I put 3 rounds in your chest before you can blink. Fallon didn't move, didn't lower her weapon. You killed my father. Your father was a liability. Mercer's tone held no remorse, just flat pragmatism. Smart man, exceptional handler, but too much integrity for his own good. He found out about our operation, threatened to expose us, destroy everything we'd built over 33 years. A pause. So we eliminated the problem. You murdered him. We removed a threat to operational security. There's a difference. Mercer shook his head. This operation has generated over $65 million since 1991. Supplied materials to clients who pay in cash, no questions asked. Your father wanted to throw all that away over abstract principles like honor and duty. His weapon never wavered. He gave us no choice. There's always a choice. Not in our world. In our world, you're either predator or prey. Your father chose wrong. Mercer's eyes were flat dead. And now you're standing exactly where he stood, making the same mistakes, about to learn the same lessons. Fallon's finger rested on her trigger. She could shoot, could try. Mercer was 15 feet away, 3 rounds center mass. But his 2 backup operators would kill her and Bennett before their bodies hit the ground. Tactical mathematics. Unwinnable odds. How did it happen? Fallon asked, buying time looking for options. My father's death. I want to know exactly how you did it. Mercer considered for a moment, then shrugged. Why not? You'll be dead in 5 minutes anyway. He shifted his weight, the rifle never moving from its aim point on her chest. Derek Walsh planted the IED on Route 7 outside Basra. I provided the intelligence, told Marcus his team needed to sweep that sector. Said there was high-value intelligence about insurgent movements. He trusted me, believed me, never suspected that his commanding officer would send him straight into a kill zone. Fallon's hands trembled with rage. The IED went off, but my father survived the initial blast. He did. Thrown clear. Broken legs, burns, but alive, conscious, aware. Mercer's expression showed nothing. No remorse, no guilt, just the flat recitation of facts. So Derek finished the job, put a knife in his chest, made sure there were no survivors who could ask inconvenient questions. Then we called it in. Enemy ambush, IED explosion, catastrophic casualties. Case closed. The words hung in the air like poison. Fallon's father hadn't died instantly in an explosion. He'd survived. Had time to realize he'd been betrayed. Had time to feel the blade that ended his life. You son of a... I'm a realist. Your father was an idealist. That's why he's dead, and I'm about to retire with $20 million in offshore accounts. Mercer's weapon steadied. Now put the gun down or I kill all 3 of you right here. Movement exploded from multiple directions simultaneously. Bennett, despite his age and that permanent limp from Somalia, moved with muscle memory built over 4 decades of combat. He lunged sideways toward Mercer, bringing his M4 up, even as Mercer's rifle tracked to follow. Fallon dropped and rolled left, her body remembering training drills practiced 10,000 times. She came up firing. 2 shots at the nearest backup operator. Both rounds hit center mass. The man went down hard. Shadow, loyal and brilliant and perfectly trained, launched himself at the second backup operator without being commanded. Pure instinct, pure pack loyalty. 85 pounds of Belgian Malinois hit the man before he could fire jaws, clamping onto his gun arm, dragging him to the ground. Gunfire erupted in the enclosed space. The sound was deafening. Muzzle flashes strobed like lightning. Cordite smoke filled the air, making it hard to breathe, hard to see, hard to think through the chaos. Fallon fired again at the operator she'd hit, made sure he stayed down, then pivoted toward Mercer. But Bennett was in the way, the 2 men grappling for control of their weapons, struggling for dominance, neither willing to give ground. Mercer broke free, suddenly swung his rifle like a club. The stock caught Bennett across the side of his head with a sickening crack. The older man staggered, blood streaming from his temple, eyes unfocused. No! Fallon shouted. She moved forward, weapon tracking Mercer, but the senior chief was already moving. He kicked Bennett's rifle away, then dropped his own weapon and pulled a knife. A 7-inch Ka bar blade blackened to prevent reflection, the same knife he'd used to kill Marcus Hartwell. I gutted your father with this blade, Mercer said, breathing hard but still controlled. Looked him in the eyes while he bled out. He kept talking about honor, about duty, about how we'd betrayed everything the uniform stands for. He smiled cruel. Right up until I twisted the knife and ended his self-righteous sermon. Rage flooded through Fallon like liquid fire. White hot, all-consuming. She could shoot him. Should shoot him. One trigger pull and Grayson Mercer would be dead. But she needed him alive. Needed his testimony. Needed him to expose Kane and the others. Justice required sacrifice. Her father had taught her that. On your knees, Fallon said, voice steady, despite the fury burning in her chest. Hands behind your head. You're under arrest. Mercer laughed. Actually laughed. You don't have the stones to shoot me, just like Marcus didn't have the stones when I gave him the chance to walk away. The smile widened. He kept talking about doing the right thing right up until I stuck this blade between his ribs and watched the light go out of his eyes. He moved fast, professional, the attack of someone who'd spent 30 years learning to kill efficiently with blades in hands when guns weren't an option. The KA bar came up in a gutting stroke designed to open Fallon from groin to sternum. She twisted, the blade missing by inches, feeling the wind of its passage across her stomach. Fallon brought her pistol up, but Mercer was inside her reach, now too close for firearms to be effective. His free hand caught her wrist, forcing the weapon aside with brutal strength. She was fast, well-trained, athletic from years of handler work, but Mercer had 60 pounds on her and 3 decades of experience in hand-to-hand combat. He forced her backward. Her shoulders hit the stone wall. The impact drove air from her lungs in an explosive gasp. The knife came up again, blade aimed at her throat. Then Shadow hit Mercer from behind. The dog's jaws clamped onto Mercer's knife arm at the elbow joint. Bone crunched audibly. Mercer screamed a sound of pure agony that echoed off stone walls. The KA bar fell from nerveless fingers, clattering across the floor. Fallon didn't hesitate. She brought her knee up into Mercer's groin. Once. Twice. The senior chief doubled over, gasping, the fight draining out of him. She stepped back, raised her pistol, fired once. The round hit Mercer's left shoulder, precisely placed to incapacitate without killing. He collapsed, clutching the wound, blood seeping between his fingers. "Shadow out," Fallon commanded. The dog released immediately, returning to heel position, muzzle stained red. Bennett was on his feet now, bleeding from his head wound but functional. He collected the fallen weapons, securing them away from the prisoners. Fallon stood over Mercer, weapon pointed at his face. "Senior Chief Grayson Mercer, you're under arrest for treason, smuggling of controlled materials, conspiracy to commit murder, and the murder of Master Chief Marcus Hartwell." She paused. "You have the right to remain silent." "Save it," Mercer interrupted, laughing wetly. Blood flecked his lips. "You think catching me changes anything? Kane knows you're here, knows what you're doing. He's got contingencies for contingencies. Lawyers' connections, political cover, all the way to the Pentagon." His eyes met hers. "You're not taking down the operation. You're just signing your own death warrant. Then we'll see who dies first. Not me. I'm too valuable. I'll cut a deal, trade testimony for immunity, walk away from this while you end up in a body bag like your father." Fallon's finger tightened on the trigger. 1 pound of pressure, that's all it would take. One small movement and Grayson Mercer would be dead, would never hurt anyone again, would never make another deal or walk free. Bennett's hand rested gently on her shoulder. "Don't. He's not worth it, and we need him alive." She took a shuddering breath. Lowered the weapon. While Bennett secured Mercer with heavy-duty zip ties, Fallon checked on Shadow. The dog had minor lacerations on his muzzle from the fight, but nothing serious. She ran her hands over his body, checking for injury, finding only bruises and stress. "Good boy," she whispered. "Such a good boy. You saved my life." Shadow licked her face, tail wagging, despite the violence he'd just participated in, ready to go again if needed. That was the nature of working dogs. Absolute commitment to their handlers, regardless of personal cost. They hauled Mercer back to the surface, half dragging him when he couldn't walk on his own. The senior chief left a blood trail across stone and metal grating. Neither Fallon nor Bennett felt particularly concerned about his comfort. Commander Garrett met them at the mine entrance. His expression cycled through shock, fury, and grim satisfaction as he took in the scene. Mercer wounded and restrained, bloodstained and defeated. "Senior Chief Mercer," Garrett said quietly, I've known you for 15 years, served with you, trusted you, and you've been a traitor the entire time. Save the moral posturing, Nolan. You'd have done the same thing if you'd had the balls. We all know what we're worth to the Navy. This operation just made sure we got paid what we deserved. You murdered Marcus Hartwell. I did what was necessary. He would have destroyed everything, cost us millions. So yes, I killed him. And I'd do it again. Garrett's jaw clenched so hard Fallon heard teeth grinding. For a moment, she thought the commander might shoot Mercer himself. But discipline held. Training held. Get him in the truck, Garrett ordered. Treat his wounds enough to keep him alive. Then cuff him to the frame. If he tries anything, shoot him in the other shoulder. Two operators moved forward, loaded Mercer into a tactical vehicle with unnecessary roughness. Not gentle, but effective. You're all dead, Mercer said as they secured him. Kane will hunt you down. Everyone you care about, everyone who helps you. He's done it before. He'll do it again. Let him try, Fallon said coldly. The drive back to Naval Amphibious Base Coronado took 2 hours. Dawn painted the desert in shades of copper and gold. Fallon sat in the tactical vehicle, Shadow's head resting on her lap. The dog was exhausted but content. Mission complete. Pack safe. Bennett sat across from her, field dressing on his head wound, eyes closed but not sleeping. Just processing. Thinking about Marcus. About 33 years of waiting. About justice finally served. Mercer was in the vehicle behind them, under armed guard, already talking. Calculating his survival. Trading information for leniency. The way cowards always did when caught. At the base, NCIS was already waiting. Agent Sloan Brennan, 45 years old, steel gray eyes, the kind of competence that came from decades investigating cases that would break lesser people. She took custody of Mercer immediately. Chief Petty Officer Hartwell, Brennan said, I've read the preliminary reports. This is bigger than anyone realized. It's been running for 33 years. 5 corrupt SEALs, $65 million radioactive material sold to terrorist organizations, and my father was murdered because he tried to stop it. I'm sorry for your father, and for the fact that our system let this happen for so long. Brennan looked at Mercer, now secured in the NCIS vehicle. But we're going to make it right. I promise you that. Over the next 6 hours, Mercer talked. Not immediately, not willingly, but faced with overwhelming evidence, the containers, the financial records, Fallon's testimony, the body camera footage from the mine shaft, he made the calculation that survival required cooperation. He confirmed everything. The smuggling operation, the 5 conspirators, the murder of Marcus Hartwell, and most importantly, he named Captain Victor Kane as the mastermind. Kane has been running this for 33 years, Mercer said during his formal statement. He's got files on everyone. Dirt on admirals, senators, defense contractors. He's protected because he knows where everybody's buried, literally and figuratively. Brennan leaned forward. Then we make sure the case is airtight. So good that even his connections can't save him. That evening, Fallon returned to her quarters exhausted but unable to sleep. Shadow settled in his usual spot, pressed against her bed, providing comfort through simple presence. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her accept the call. Chief Petty Officer Hartwell. The voice was cultured, educated, carrying the kind of authority that came from decades at the top of military hierarchy. My name is Captain Victor Kane. I believe we need to talk. Fallon's hand tightened on the phone. She immediately activated the recording app. I have nothing to say to you. Even if I can offer information about your father's death, about exactly what happened in Iraq, I have footage, Fallon. Video from the operation. Would you like to see how Marcus Hartwell really died? Her breath caught. You're lying. Meet me tomorrow night. Naval Amphibious Base. Coronado Building 47 in the Warehouse District, 2200 hours. Come alone and I'll show you everything. It's a trap. Of course it is. But you'll come anyway because you need the truth more than you need safety. Just like your father. A pause. He died well, if that's any comfort. Fought until the very end. But he was always going to lose. He was one man against a system designed to protect itself. I'm not alone. You have Mercer, who will say anything to avoid federal prison. You have an old man who can barely walk. And you have a vendetta that's about to get you killed. Kane's tone shifted. Became almost gentle. I'm offering you what I never offered Marcus, a chance to walk away, but there's something else you should know. The materials you intercepted tonight decoy, the real shipment left yesterday morning, headed to a militia compound in Idaho. Domestic terrorists with weapons-grade plutonium. That's on you now, Hartwell. Fallon's blood went cold. You're lying. I never lie about business. Check with your NCIS friends. See if they can find it. I give them 48 hours before those materials disappear forever into the American heartland. Meet me tomorrow night. I'll show you footage of your father's death. And maybe, just maybe, I'll tell you where the Idaho shipment is really going. The line went dead. Fallon sat in darkness, phone still pressed to her earmine, racing through implications and possibilities. Bennett appeared in her doorway minutes later. She didn't question how he knew something was wrong. What happened, Weedy? He asked. Kane called. He wants to meet. Says he has footage of Dad's death. It's definitely a trap. I know, but if there's footage, then we use it against him. We wire you. We position teams. We turn his trap into ours. Bennett leaned forward. But first we deal with the Idaho shipment. If Kane's telling the truth about plutonium heading to domestic terrorists, we need to stop it. Now. Fallon immediately called Brennan, put it on speaker. Agent Brennan, we have a situation. Kane claims there's a second shipment. Weapons-grade plutonium headed to a militia compound in Idaho. He says it left yesterday. A pause on the line. Then Brennan's voice sharp with urgency. Stay there. I'm coming to you. If he's telling the truth, we have maybe 24 hours before that material becomes untraceable. They planned through the night. Every detail, every contingency, every possible way the meeting could go wrong, and how to respond. By dawn, they had a plan. Risky, dangerous, could easily end with people dead. But it was the only chance they had. The warehouse loomed against the night sky like a monument to forgotten wars. Building 47 occupied the southeastern corner of Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, a massive steel structure erected during the Cold War, when America believed the Soviets might invade California. Now it housed nothing but dust and shadows, and the ghosts of conflicts that the current generation barely remembered. Fallon stood outside the main entrance at 21:45 hours, 15 minutes early. Shadow pressed against her left leg, radiating warmth and solidarity. The dog's ears rotated, constantly processing sounds beyond human range, analyzing the environment for threats. She wore civilian clothes, dark jeans, black jacket, boots. The jacket concealed the button camera that transmitted everything to Agent Brennan and Commander Garrett, 300 yards away in a tactical command vehicle. A throat mic hidden under her collar provided two-way communication, and strapped to her right ankle a Glock 19. Insurance, last resort, the difference between survival and death. Alpha 6, Alpha 2 in position. Building appears secure, no visible sentries over. Garrett's voice crackled through her earpiece. Copy. Overwatch confirms 4 heat signatures inside main bay. No movement in perimeter areas out. Understood. Hartwell. Brennan's voice now. Last chance to abort. We can find another way. There is no other way, not in time. Then remember, get him talking. Get him to confess on camera. Don't engage physically unless absolutely necessary. We need him alive and his testimony admissible in court. Roger, out. Fallon approached the entrance. The door wasn't locked. Kane was confident enough not to bother. It swung open with a shriek of protesting hinges, revealing darkness broken only by scattered emergency lighting. She stepped inside. Shadow followed his nails clicking on concrete, the sound echoing in vast emptiness. The main bay stretched before them. 50 yards deep, 30 wide ceiling, 2 stories overhead. Crates and equipment lockers lined the walls, creating pools of shadow within deeper darkness. The air smelled of rust and oil and something else. Ozone, the electric charge of tension before storms. 4 figures stood in the center of the space under a single overhead fixture. Captain Victor Kane occupied the middle position. 70 years old, but standing with the rigid posture of someone who'd spent 50 years in uniform. Silver hair cut military short tactical vest over his uniform chest full of ribbons. Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq. Decades of service compressed into colored cloth. To his left, Lieutenant Commander Blake Morrison, Early 50s built like someone who'd maintained peak physical condition through sheer determination and discipline. To Kane's right, Chief Warrant Officer Derek Walsh and Petty Officer First Class Owen Fisher completed the quartet, all four armed, all four watching Fallon approach with the cold calculation of apex predators evaluating prey. She stopped 20 feet away. Shadow sat without being commanded alert, but not aggressive. "Captain Kane," Fallon said. Her voice echoed in the cavernous space. "Chief Petty Officer Hartwell, thank you for meeting me. Punctual. I appreciate that quality." Kane's tone was conversational, almost pleasant. "You came alone as requested. Smart decision. I came for answers. You said you have footage of my father's death." "I do. But first let's establish understanding." Kane gestured to his three companions. "You're outnumbered and outgunned. Your dog, while impressive, can't take down four armed operators before we drop you. So let's keep this civilized." "Agreed. As long as you keep your end of the bargain." "Of course." Kane studied her face. "You're wondering why I'm showing you this. Why not just eliminate you like the others?" He smiled, cold. "Because I want you to understand that resistance is futile. Your father saw this footage before he died. I showed him what would happen if he didn't comply. He still refused. I won't make the mistake of underestimating a Hartwell twice." He pulled out a tablet from his vest. "After you watch this, you'll have a choice. Walk away or end up in the next video I show to someone else." The screen flickered to life. Grainy night vision footage. Vehicle-mounted camera. Timestamp, October 17th, 1991. 03:47 hours. 15 kilometers outside Basra, Iraq. Fallon's chest tightened as she recognized her father in the passenger seat. Master Chief Marcus Hartwell. 35 years old. Jaw set with determination, eyes scanning terrain through the Humvee's window. In the back seat, a German Shepherd. Sergeant, his K9 partner. The footage continued. The Humvee moving through darkness. Radio chatter. Coordinates. The mechanical rhythm of routine patrol. Then Sergeant started barking. Urgent. Frantic. Warning his handler of danger invisible to human senses. Marcus's hand went to his throat mic. "Contact right possible IED." The explosion was deafening, even through the tablet speakers. The camera angle went wild, spinning, showing ground and sky and fire. When it stabilized, the Humvee was destroyed. Flames consumed twisted metal, bodies visible through the wreckage. But what made Fallon's blood freeze was what came next. A figure approached the burning vehicle. Combat fatigue's tactical vest, moving with purpose. He carried a rifle and something else, something smaller. The figure knelt beside the wreckage, reached inside, pulled out Marcus Hartwell. Her father was alive, badly injured, legs clearly broken, face covered in blood, uniform burned, but alive, conscious, aware. The figure spoke. Audio was garbled by fire and wind, but fragments came through. "Shouldn't have dug Marcus. Kane's orders. Join us or die." Her father's voice weak but defiant. "Never. I'd rather die with honor." The figure leaned closer. The camera angle shifted, revealing his face in the firelight. Derek Walsh. "Think of your daughter. Your wife is pregnant. The baby needs a father." Marcus's face contorted with pain and anguish. Tears streamed down his cheeks, cutting trails through the blood and soot. "Tell her honor is everything. Tell her I love her. Tell her to finish what I started." Walsh pressed something against Marcus's chest. A blade. The same Ka bar knife that Mercer had carried in the mineshaft. Marcus's body went rigid. His mouth opened, but no sound emerged initially. Blood bloomed across his uniform. But he didn't die. Not immediately. The camera kept rolling. For 15 minutes, Marcus Hartwell lay on the desert floor, the blade still embedded in his chest, unable to move, unable to do anything but bleed and breathe and die slowly. His lips moved continuously. The audio, enhanced by whoever had processed this footage, captured his words. "Fallon, honor. Fallon, I'm sorry. Fallon, be strong. Fallon, trust the dogs. Fallon, finish this. Fallon, I love you. Fallon." Over and over. Her name, his final lessons, his love, for a daughter he would never meet. At 14 minutes and 52 seconds, his lips stopped moving. The light faded from his eyes. His chest stopped rising. Walsh spoke to the camera. Dispose of body, Taliban ambush official report. No survivors. The footage ended. Fallon stood frozen. Tears streamed down her face without permission. Her hands shook. Her chest felt like someone had reached inside and crushed her heart to pulp. 15 minutes. Her father had suffered for 15 minutes calling her name, trying to impart final wisdom, dying alone in the Iraqi desert, while men he trusted watched. Calling to a daughter not yet born. That's Derek Walsh, Kane said quietly, nodding toward the man on his right. He was driving the vehicle behind your father's Humvee. When our planted IED went off, Derek made sure there were no survivors. Clean professional necessary. Derek Walsh showed no emotion. Just watched Fallon with flat, dead eyes. You murdered him, Fallon whispered. We eliminated a threat to operational security, Kane corrected. Your father discovered our operation threatened to expose us, destroy 33 years of work, cost us millions of dollars. We gave him opportunities to walk away to accept reality and keep quiet. He refused, so we removed him from the equation. He was your teammate, your brother in arms. He was a liability, and in our business liabilities get people killed. Sometimes the liability themselves. Kane pocketed the tablet. I'm showing you this for a reason. I want you to understand exactly what you're up against. We've been running this operation for 33 years without detection, without consequences. We have resources, connections, protection at every level, and we've eliminated everyone who threatened us. He paused. Your father, other SEALs, CIA analysts, 7 people total over 33 years. All of them made the same mistake your father made. They believed principles mattered more than survival. Kane took a step forward. Now you're standing where they stood, walking the same path, about to learn the same lesson. Fallon's hand moved fractionally toward her jacket where the Glock waited, but 4 weapons tracked her movement instantly. I wouldn't, Kane said softly. You're fast, well-trained, but not fast enough to draw and fire before my men put a dozen rounds in you. Then why am I still alive? Why this meeting instead of just killing me? Because unlike your father, you strike me as intelligent enough to recognize a losing position when you see one. Kane's expression was almost sympathetic. You've seen what we're capable of. You know the resources we command. You know that continuing this vendetta will only end one way. With you in a body bag like Marcus, he paused. I'm offering you what I never offered your father. A choice. Transfer to a different base. Go back to training dogs. Forget about investigating his death. Live your life. Another pause. It's not weakness to choose survival over principle. It's wisdom. Fallon looked at each of them. Kane with his ribbons and his confidence. Morrison with his muscled readiness. Walsh with his dead eyes. Fisher with his nervous energy. 4 men who'd betrayed everything the uniform represented. 4 men who'd murdered her father for money. 4 men who thought they'd won. I have a counteroffer, Fallon said clearly. You confess, all of you, right now. Detail every operation, every shipment, every person you've killed. And maybe the judge shows mercy. Kane laughed. The sound echoed through the warehouse, harsh and genuine. You think you have leverage. You think anyone will believe your accusations against decorated combat veterans. I think Senior Chief Grayson Mercer is in federal custody providing detailed testimony. I think NCIS has financial records, communication logs, and physical evidence of your smuggling operation. Fallon paused. And I think you just confessed to my father's murder on camera. The laughter stopped abruptly. What did you say? Fallon tapped her jacket where the button camera transmitted everything. Body cam, audio and video. Agent Sloan Brennan has been recording since I walked in here. Everything you said, everything you admitted, the footage you showed me. Derek Walsh's presence, all documented and admissible in court. Kane's face went through several emotions rapidly. Shock, fury, calculation. His hand moved toward his sidearm. All units execute, execute, execute. Commander Garrett's voice exploded through Fallon's earpiece and through loudspeakers positioned around the warehouse. Doors crashed open on 3 sides simultaneously. NCIS agents in tactical gear poured through weapons, raised voices overlapping in trained chaos. Federal agents, hands up, drop your weapons, on your knees now. Kane's hand completed its draw. His pistol came up fast, tracking toward Fallon, with the speed of someone who'd spent 50 years training for combat. Shadow launched forward before Kane could fire. 85 pounds of Belgian Malinois covered 15 feet in explosive strides. The dog hit Kane's center mass with enough force to drive the man backward. Jaws clamped onto his gun arm. The pistol discharged a deafening crack, but the round went wide, sparking off concrete 6 inches from Fallon's head. Blake Morrison raised his rifle toward the incoming NCIS agents. Got off 3 rounds before return fire caught him in the chest. Body armor stopped the bullets, but kinetic impact broke ribs. He went down hard, gasping for air. Derek Walsh tried to run, made it 5 steps before Commander Garrett emerged from behind equipment crates M4 carbine at shoulder level. "Don't move or I drop you where you stand." Walsh froze, slowly raised his hands. Owen Fisher was smarter, or more cowardly. He dropped his weapon immediately, hands shooting skyward, voice loud with surrender. "Don't shoot. I'm unarmed. I surrender." Within 30 seconds, it was over. Kane lay on concrete with Shadow's jaws clamped on his arm and 4 NCIS agents pointing weapons at his head. Morrison was handcuffed, groaning from broken ribs, being treated by a medic. Walsh and Fisher were both restrained, faces pressed against floor. Agent Brennan approached Fallon, holstering her weapon. "You okay?" "Yeah, shadow release." The dog let go immediately, trotting back to Fallon's side. His tail wagged once. Mission complete. Pack protected. Brennan looked at Kane with an expression of pure disgust. "Captain Victor Kane, you're under arrest for treason, conspiracy to commit murder, smuggling of controlled materials, and approximately 40 other federal charges. I'll enumerate them on the way to lockup." She began reading his rights. "You have the right to remain silent." "This is a mistake," Kane interrupted. His voice remained steady despite pain and restraints. "I have connections. Lawyers will make your evidence inadmissible. You can't possibly. Your connections can't help you anymore," Brennan said. "We have Grayson Mercer's testimony. We have your confession on video recorded with your knowledge per the chief petty officer's statement that she was recording. We have financial records, communication logs, and enough evidence to convict you 20 times over." She hauled him to his feet with unnecessary roughness. "Your operation is done. Your career is done. You're done." Other agents processed the remaining prisoners, reading rights, documenting injuries, moving with mechanical efficiency. Fallon stood in the center of the warehouse, suddenly aware her legs were shaking. The adrenaline that had sustained her through confrontation was draining away, leaving exhaustion and emotion in its wake. Bennett appeared at her side. He was supposed to be in the tactical vehicle, but of course he wasn't. He'd positioned himself inside the warehouse, ready to intervene if things went wrong. "You did it, kid," he said quietly. "You got them all. The footage of my father, it'll be analyzed by forensics. Walsh will be charged with murder. They'll all spend the rest of their lives in federal prison. It's not enough. They took 33 years from me, 33 years of questions and grief. And my father never even got to meet me." Her voice broke. Bennett pulled her into a careful hug, mindful of his injuries. I know it's not enough. Nothing ever could be. But it's justice. And that's what Marcus would have wanted." Fallon let herself lean into the embrace for just a moment. Let herself be the 33-year-old daughter who'd lost her father instead of the warrior who'd hunted his killers across 3 decades and 10,000 miles. Then she pulled back, wiping her eyes. "There's still the shipment. Kane said weapons-grade plutonium headed to Idaho." Brennan approached, phone in hand. "About that, we've been coordinating with FBI since last night. They raided the militia compound 2 hours ago." Fallon felt her heart race. "And 10 kilograms weapons-grade plutonium, Russian origin, packed in lead containers. The militia was planning an attack on Seattle Federal Building next week." Brennan's expression was stone. "Your father's journals had a reference we missed initially. An old contact in the smuggling network, someone who'd kept records. We traced him through Mercer's testimony. He gave up the Idaho location yesterday afternoon. How many arrested? 14 militia members, all charged with domestic terrorism, conspiracy, weapons violations. They're looking at life sentences." Bennett closed his eyes. Marcus would be relieved. He always feared the materials would end up on American soil, targeting Americans. They almost did, Brennan said. If you hadn't pushed this investigation, if you hadn't captured Mercer, if you hadn't forced Kane's hand, that plutonium would be in downtown Seattle right now. Fallon didn't feel triumphant, just tired, and grateful her father's sacrifice hadn't been for nothing. How many lives did we save? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, depending on how they plan to deploy it. Brennan put her hand on Fallon's shoulder. Your father died trying to stop this. You finished it. You saved those people. Remember that. 6 months later, the trials concluded. Military tribunals, not civilian courts. These were active duty personnel charged with crimes committed while in uniform. Fallon testified for 3 days, detailed everything from her father's journals to the mineshaft confrontation to Kane's confession in the warehouse. Defense attorneys tried every angle to discredit her testimony, to suppress the video evidence, to argue illegal search and seizure. None of it worked. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable, devastating. Captain Victor Kane, guilty on all counts. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole, dishonorable discharge, forfeiture of all military benefits and pension. Senior Chief Grayson Mercer, guilty on all counts. 45 years, dishonorable discharge. Lieutenant Commander Blake Morrison, guilty, 35 years, dishonorable discharge. Chief Warrant Officer Derek Walsh, guilty of murder, treason, smuggling, 40 years, dishonorable discharge. Petty Officer First Class Owen Fisher, guilty, 25 years, dishonorable discharge. When they led Kane away in shackles, he looked at Fallon one final time. This isn't over. Yes, she said quietly, it is. 2 years after the arrest, Chief Petty Officer Fallon Hartwell stood before her first class of K9 handler trainees at Naval Special Warfare Center. 20 students, 10 men, 10 women, the most diverse group the program had ever accepted. They looked nervous, uncertain, worried they weren't good enough for this work. Fallon understood perfectly. She'd felt the same way standing outside these kennels 4 years ago. My name is Chief Hartwell, she began. My father, Master Chief Marcus Hartwell, was the finest K9 handler Naval Special Warfare ever produced. He never got to meet me. He died 2 weeks before I was born. But he left me something more valuable than memories. He left me his philosophy, his methods, his belief that doing the right thing matters even when it costs you everything. She walked down the line, making eye contact with each trainee. Dogs are not tools. They're not weapons. They're partners, teammates, warriors who will save your life if you respect them and earn their trust. Shadow trotted to her side, sitting at perfect heel. Now 12 years old, gray creeping through his muzzle, but still strong, still alert, still utterly devoted. This is Shadow. He saved my life more times than I can count. He's completed missions that most humans couldn't, and he's done it all because we're pack. We trust each other. Absolutely. She paused. My father taught that trust the dogs. They know the truth. They know who the wolves are. Listen to them. Learn from them. Become pack with them, and they'll never let you down. The students listened with the intensity of people understanding they were receiving something valuable, something hard-won and precious. Over the following months, Fallon rebuilt the K9 program from the ground up. New training methods based on partnership rather than domination. Higher standards that emphasized trust over obedience. Ethical guidelines that treated dogs as the sentient beings they were. Tyler Brooks became her assistant instructor. Fully reformed, genuinely dedicated to doing better. You're changing the whole culture, he said one evening after a particularly grueling training session. The old culture got my father killed. Time for a new one. You think it'll stick after you're gone? It'll stick because I'm training people who will train the next generation. Fallon looked at him seriously. Legacy isn't about what you do. It's about what you teach others to do. On the 35th anniversary of her father's death, Fallon returned to Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery. Shadow walked beside her, gray muzzle, slower gait, but still devoted. Fresh flowers already sat at the base of the memorial. She wasn't the only one who remembered Master Chief Marcus Hartwell. A new headstone marked his grave. Larger than before, more detailed. Master Chief Marcus Hartwell, SEAL Team 3, K9 handler, 1956 to 1991, murdered in service to his country. Justice served 2024. Trust the dogs. Honor is everything. Beside it, a bronze plaque. This memorial honors all service members killed by corruption within their ranks. May their sacrifice never be forgotten. May their killers face eternal judgment. The memorial service was everything the first funeral hadn't been. Not a quiet affair with a handful of mourners. This was official. Full military honors. Commander Garrett presiding, Agent Brennan in attendance, 40 Navy SEALs in dress blues standing at attention. The rifle volleys cracked across the cemetery. 21 shots echoing over water. 21 reminders that freedom required blood. A bugler played taps. The mournful notes drifted out over the Pacific, carried on ocean winds toward horizons unknown. The flag that had covered the memorial was folded with precise ceremony and presented to Fallon. She accepted it, held it against her chest, felt the weight of tradition and honor and grief compressed into colored cloth. The service concluded. People began dispersing, but Fallon remained standing before her father's memorial, shadow solid and warm beside her. Bennett approached. He'd made the trip from Oregon despite his retirement, traveling 2 days to be here for this moment. His limp was less pronounced now. Physical therapy and time had helped heal the worst damage. He'd be proud, Bennett said simply. I hope so. I know so. You did what he couldn't, finished the mission, and now you're making sure the next generation doesn't face the same betrayals. He paused. That's the best way to honor him. Fallon turned back to the memorial, placed one hand on cold stone. I did it, Dad. Got them all. Kane, Mercer, Morrison, Walsh, Fisher. All of them in federal prison for life. The operation is shut down. The materials are secured. The Idaho attack stopped. You can rest now. Shadow leaned against her leg, a reminder of presence, partnership, the pact that transcended death. I've got your job now, training handlers your way, teaching them that dogs are partners, not tools, that honor matters, that integrity matters, that doing the right thing matters even when it's hard. She stood and saluted one final time, held it while tears came freely. Rest easy, Master Chief. Your daughter's got it from here. After the service, as people lingered in quiet conversation, Bennett handed Fallon an envelope, old, yellowed with age, sealed with wax. Found this in your father's things years ago. Kept it safe, waiting for the right moment. Today feels right. Fallon opened it with trembling fingers. Inside, a letter in her father's handwriting, dated October 16, 1991, the day before he died, 2 weeks before she was born. She read silently at first, then aloud, her voice carrying across the cemetery. Fallon, if you're reading this, I'm gone. You're not born yet. Your mother is 7 months pregnant. I'll never hold you, never see your first smile, never teach you to ride a bike or help with homework. That breaks my heart more than the knowledge that I'm about to die. She paused, steadying her voice. But I'm leaving you something more important than my presence. For 6 years, 1985 to 91, I've been training handlers my way. Secret program. Teaching them dogs are partners, not tools. That honor matters. That integrity matters. I've trained 50 handlers across every SEAL team. They know what I taught. When you're ready, they'll find you. Her voice cracked. The dogs know truth. Trust them always. Cole Bennett has evidence of the conspiracy. When you're old enough, strong enough, he'll help you. You're not alone. You never were. Be strong, baby girl. Be brave. Finish what I started. I love you more than life itself. Always and forever. Your father, Marcus. Fallon looked at Bennett, tears streaming. He trained 50 others. At least. I've been in contact with them all 35 years, waiting for this day. Bennett pulled out his phone, showed her an email thread. They're ready to come forward now, continue his work officially. Your father's legacy isn't just you. It's an army of ethical handlers spanning 3 decades, spanning the globe, all of them waiting for Marcus Hartwell's daughter to lead them. Fallon placed her hand on the headstone again. Your legacy continues, Dad. Through them, through me, through every handler who learns that dogs are partners, not tools. Shadow settled beside her head, resting on her knee. I miss you every single day, but I'm okay. We're okay. The pack is strong. The Pacific wind carried her words away toward whatever eternity held toward whatever place her father had gone. She sat there for a long time, remembering, grieving, honoring. Then she stood saluted one final time and walked back toward the future. Behind her, the memorial stood silent and permanent, a reminder, a warning, a promise kept. 1 week later, Fallon sat in her office at Naval Special Warfare Center. Late afternoon sun streamed through the windows. Shadow dozed in his usual corner, comfortable content home. Her computer dinged. New email. Subject: the old guard stands ready. Fallon opened it, heart racing. The message was brief, powerful, perfect. Chief Hartwell, we are the 50 handlers Marcus Hartwell trained from 1985 to 1991. For 35 years, we've carried his teachings in secret, passing them to others when we could, keeping his philosophy alive in the shadows. We've waited for justice. Now it's served. We're ready to come forward, ready to reform K9 programs worldwide, officially implementing your father's methods. Ready to prove that his way, the right way, produces better handlers, better dogs, better warriors. Are you ready to lead us? Sign the old guard. Below the message, a list of names, 50 of them. Current ranks, current assignments, current locations. SEALs, Marine Raiders, Army Special Forces, Air Force Pararescue, every branch, every theater, a network spanning the entire special operations community. Fallon stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she smiled, typed her response. Yes, let's finish what my father started. She hit send, stood, walked to the window, looked out at the training grounds where new handlers worked with their dogs. Partnership, trust, the future her father had died believing in. Shadow stirred, came to stand beside her, pressed against her leg, still protecting, still pack, still her partner after all these years. You know what this means, boy, she said softly. We're not just changing one program. We're changing everything. The whole system. The way the military trains every K9 handler. Dad's revolution finally happening. Shadow's tail wagged, slow but steady. A knock on the door. Bennett entered, followed by Tyler Brooks and 3 other instructors. Got your email to the old guard, Bennett said. Word's already spreading. By tomorrow morning, 50 handlers will be requesting transfers here to train under you. By next month, we'll have requests from every command wanting to adopt Marcus's methods. Tyler grinned. You're about to become the most influential K9 handler in military history. No pressure. Fallon looked at them. Her team. Her pack. The people who'd believed in her, supported her, helped her bring justice for her father. We do this right, she said. No cutting corners. No compromises. We teach Dad's way, the complete system. Partnership over domination. Trust over fear. Honor over expedience. That's going to take time, one of the instructors said. Years, probably. Then we take years. This isn't about quick results. It's about changing culture, changing hearts, teaching warriors that strength comes from connection, not control. She paused. My father spent 6 years building a network in secret. We're going to spend the next decade bringing it into the light, making it official, making it permanent. Bennett nodded slowly. He'd be proud. He'd better be, because we're about to turn the entire military K9 community upside down. 3 months later, the transformation was undeniable. 50 handlers from the old guard had transferred to Coronado. Each brought their own students, their own methods refined over decades, their own stories of how Marcus Hartwell had changed their lives. The Pentagon had approved full implementation of the Hartwell method across all branches. Army Special Forces at Fort Bragg, Marine Raiders at Camp Pendleton, Air Force Pararescue at Kirtland. Every military K9 program in the United States was adopting Marcus Hartwell's philosophy. Dogs are partners, not weapons. Earn trust, don't demand submission. The pack protects the pack. Simple principles. Revolutionary impact. Fallon stood in the main training bay watching a young handler work with a German Shepherd. The dog was aggressive, traumatized, similar to Shadow 4 years ago. The handler, a 23-year-old corporal fresh from Lackland, looked overwhelmed. Permission to assist, Chief? Tyler Brooks asked. Granted, but use Dad's technique. Show him how it's really done. Tyler approached the corporal, spoke quietly, demonstrated the vocalization method, the pressure points the patient non-threatening approach. Within 10 minutes, the German Shepherd had calmed, had accepted Tyler's touch, had begun the transformation from weapon to partner. The corporal watched amazed. "I've never seen anything like that." "You will," Fallon said. "This is the new standard. This is how we do things now." That evening, alone in her office, Fallon opened her father's journal one last time, read his final entry, the words she'd memorized years ago but still needed to see. "Finish what I started. Expose the vipers. Protect the pack. Trust the dogs." She'd done it. All of it. The vipers exposed and imprisoned. The pack protected and thriving. The dogs trusted and honored. "Mission complete, Dad," she whispered. Shadow raised his head from where he lay, looked at her with understanding that transcended words. "You know what we built, boy, not just a program, a movement. Dad's philosophy is now official military doctrine. Every K9 handler in America will learn his methods. His legacy will touch thousands of dogs, thousands of handlers for generations to come." The dog's tail thumped softly against the floor. Wish he could see it. Wish he could know that his death wasn't meaningless, that it started something bigger than any of us imagined. She closed the journal, placed it carefully in her desk drawer. Tomorrow it would go to the Naval Special Warfare Museum, preserved forever as the document that exposed corruption and launched a revolution. But tonight it was still hers, still her father's voice speaking across 35 years, guiding her home. Her computer dinged. Final email of the day. Subject: first mission complete. Message: Chief, first wave of 50 handlers arriving next week. Second wave of 200 ready by month's end. Pentagon has approved full implementation. Your father's methods are now official doctrine across all branches. The revolution is complete. Marcus Hartwell's legacy is secure. Well done, warrior. The old guard. Fallon showed the message to Shadow. "You hear that, boy? We did it. Really did it. Changed everything." Shadow's tail wagged. Fallon looked up at the stars one last time through her window. "Rest easy, Dad. Your work is finished. Your dream is real. Your daughter kept her promise." She turned and walked toward the door, Shadow at perfect heel, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. Behind them, the office lights dimmed. Outside, the Pacific whispered against the shore. Eternal, unchanging, witnessing. The pack protects the pack. The handlers honor the fallen. The revolution continues, always and forever. The end.